A buddy of mine closed on his house 9 years ago, and he's told everyone since that it's the best investment he's ever made. Last year, he actually sat down and ran the real numbers: mortgage interest, property tax, repairs, every single dollar of it against what that same down payment would have done sitting somewhere else entirely. He hasn't called it an investment since. That's the math we're doing today. Here's where we're headed over the next several minutes. First, I'm going to show you what actually counts as an investment and why a house structurally doesn't qualify the way people assume it does. Then, we're going to walk through the specific hidden costs that quietly erase most of the growth people love bragging about at dinner tables. And after that, I'm handing you the one calculation that shows you your actual real return, not the number that sounds impressive out loud. By the end of this, you'll have the exact formula to run on your own house or the one you're about to buy before you ever call it an investment to someone else again. If you want the real math, instead of the version that gets repeated at every dinner party in America, that's exactly what this channel runs on. Subscribe if you want to keep running the real math with me. Let's start with a definition, because almost nobody actually stops to check whether their house fits it. A real investment does one of two things. It produces cash flow while you hold it, or it compounds in value while requiring very little ongoing cost just to continue owning it. A house does neither of those things. It costs you money every single month just to keep existing as your house, completely independent of whether its value is moving up, down, or nowhere at all. Here's the reframe I want stuck in your head for the rest of this video. A house is a leveraged consumption purchase that sometimes appreciates. It is not an appreciating asset that happens to be pleasant to live inside of. Picture two categories side by side: an asset that pays you and an asset that bills you every month on a schedule, whether you like it or not. Your house belongs firmly in the second category, and the fact that it might also grow in value doesn't move it into the first one. Now let's talk about the story almost every homeowner tells, the one my buddy told for 9 straight years. I bought it for this number. It's worth that number now. Look how much money I made. That comparison, purchase price against current price, is almost never the real number. And here's exactly why. It completely ignores 9+ years of mortgage interest paid to a bank, property taxes paid to a county, insurance premiums paid every single year, and maintenance that never actually stops. Roof repairs, water heaters, the stuff that shows up uninvited and expensive. All of that was required every year just to keep the house standing and legally yours. And none of it shows up in the "I bought low, it's worth more now" story people tell at barbecues. There's a second number almost nobody calculates, and it might be the more important one. That down payment didn't just sit there safely, waiting to be admired. It was deployed, locked into one single illiquid asset. Instead of sitting anywhere else, it could have potentially grown during those same 9 years. That's opportunity cost, and it applies whether anyone thinks about it or not. Here's why this actually matters for you specifically, and not just as an abstract concept. Picture two guys, similar houses, similar appreciation on paper, similar neighborhoods even. One of them has a genuinely solid financial outcome from owning that home. The other one has a mediocre outcome wearing the exact same "my house appreciated" story as a disguise. And the only way to know which one you actually are is to run the real numbers, which almost nobody ever does. Quick pause here, because I actually want your specific numbers for this. Drop your purchase price and roughly how many years you've owned in the comments below. I'm going to use these for a follow-up breakdown because seeing the real spread across different people makes this concept land in a way a single example never fully can. Later in this video, I'm giving you the exact calculation to run on your own house. The one that tells you your real annual return, not the number that sounds good standing next to a grill with a drink in your hand. Let's get into the actual costs, the ones that quietly eat almost all of the gain people love talking about. First is mortgage interest, and depending on when you bought and your rate, the total interest paid over the life of a loan can rival or even exceed the original amount you borrowed. Second is property tax, which doesn't stay flat. It typically climbs a little almost every single year, quietly compounding the longer you own. Third is homeowners insurance, another recurring cost that exists purely to protect the asset, adding nothing to its value, just protecting what's already there. And fourth is maintenance, which never actually stops. Even once the mortgage itself is completely paid off, a roof doesn't care that your loan is finished. Here's the part I want you to really sit with. These aren't occasional surprise expenses that show up once in a while. They function as a second, mostly invisible payment, stacked directly on top of the mortgage payment people actually see and budget around every month. If you graphed the home's rising value next to the running total of everything paid to own it, interest, tax, insurance, repairs, those two lines sit a lot closer together than the "I doubled my money" story ever admits. Now let's go even deeper, into the part almost nobody calculates at all. That down payment, the chunk of cash you handed over at closing, people talk about it like it disappeared into the walls and stopped existing. It didn't disappear. It was deployed into one single asset, undiversified, illiquid, meaning you can't touch that money again without either selling the house entirely or borrowing against it through a loan. Let me walk you through two people with the exact same starting amount of cash. One of them puts it into a down payment on a house. The other keeps it liquid, spread across a diversified set of investments instead. Over the same number of years, that money moves very differently depending purely on where it was sitting. One version locked into a single property in a single location. The other version able to grow, rebalance, and compound without being tied to one physical address. And I want to be precise about what I'm actually saying here because it's easy to misread this. This is not renting is better than buying. That's a different conversation entirely, with its own set of trade-offs. This is stop calling your down payment free money that vanished into a wall. It was working somewhere, or it wasn't, and almost nobody ever actually checks which one happened to them. This is where everything comes together. So let's bring it home. Remember my buddy from the beginning, 9 years in, telling everyone this was the best investment he'd ever made. When he finally ran the real number, every dollar of interest, every property tax bill, every insurance premium, every repair, subtracted against his actual appreciation, the real annualized return was far lower than the "it basically doubled" story he'd been repeating for years. Here's what I want to be extremely clear about, because this is not an argument against buying a home. It does not mean his decision was a mistake. It means it was, first and foremost, a housing decision and a lifestyle decision, the place his family actually lived, slept, and built a life inside of. Where people quietly miscalculate their own progress is treating that housing decision as if it were also a wealth-building strategy on par with actual investing, when the real math tells a very different story. The house isn't lying to you. The story you've been telling about the house, that's the part that isn't true. Now, here's the bonus I promised you, the exact calculation, written out simply enough to run this week. Start with your total appreciation, current estimated value minus original purchase price. Subtract the sum of everything else: total mortgage interest paid, total property tax paid, total insurance paid, and total maintenance and repairs paid across the years you've owned it. Take what's left and divide it by your original down payment. Then annualize that result across the number of years you've owned the home. That final number is your real personal rate of return, not the sticker price illusion you'd tell someone at a party. Here's the second piece, and it's what actually makes that number mean something. Compare it against a simple, long-term diversified investment benchmark over that exact same period. That comparison, side by side, honestly tells you which category your house actually falls into, for you specifically, not for houses in general. So here's what I want you to do this week, not eventually, this week. Pull your mortgage statement and your original purchase paperwork and actually run this formula with your real numbers, instead of repeating the version you've been telling people for years. Drop a like on this one if it changed how you're looking at your own numbers. It genuinely helps this reach someone still repeating the barbecue version of their own house story. If you're trying to figure out where money should actually go to build real wealth instead of just paying down a house, I broke that down in this video. Go watch that one next.